Now, third week, third class, page 32 in our textbook, Mesopotamian social location. It is very important because it talks about the social location of the wisdom, social location of wise people. Because in the Old Testament, we do not know about social location. We do not know how those wise people were working in the ancient Israelite society, because Proverbs, Book of Job, Ecclesiastes, they never talk about authors themselves, so we don't have any information about their social location. But this Mesopotamian and also the next one, Egyptian, they have had some informations about the social location of the wisdom. So it is important. We have to call our attention to this. Page 32, the line, fifth line of the Mesopotamian social location. We do not know, for example, who wrote the biblical wisdom books, what institutions sponsored their copying and distribution, and who read them. Were there wisdom schools? Were they written by village elders or by court scribes? No information about that. We cannot answer to these questions. But Mesopotamian texts give an answer to these questions. Its literature is found entirely within the world of the scribe. So, social location of the Mesopotamian wisdom books are from scribes. And it is significant that there is only one Akkadian term for scribe, tupsharu. Tupsharu, that's Akkadian word. Akkadian term tupsharu, it means scribes. And they wrote the literature and saw to its transmission. Literature was by definition what they copied and stocked in libraries. It is very significant. Why? We don't have any information about Israelite wise people, but comparative studies, when we see this Mesopotamian social location, we infer from this social location that even though our Hebrew Bible do not talk about that social location of the Israelite wisdom, but still Israelites are influenced by neighboring culture. We know that. So probably there must have been this kind of scribes in Israelite society as well, like this Mesopotamian. Okay, so Israelite scribes, they also, like this tupsharu, they copied old records and they stocked in libraries, and they transmitted all those holy records to the descendants. So the Bible doesn't say that, but we know from these comparative studies that there must be Israelite scribes, and they are preserving that holy records, holy biblical traditions, and it is going generation to generation. So that is why nowadays we have this Bible. From that scribal works, their preservation, and also their innovation. When I mean innovation, it doesn't mean that they are distorting that old records, but they are adding, and sometimes they are a little bit correcting because some errors there must be. So this is the world of scribes. So from learning from this Mesopotamian social location, we have found out the Israelite scribal works, and how our Bible are coming into our hands. Okay, so here those scribal works were supported by royal court in the Mesopotamia. So, but now the king sponsored scribes and paid for their literary production, accepting it as part of his responsibility to maintain political and economic order and stability. So from here, we remember the Solomonic period. So in Solomon also, he was the king of wisdom, you remember? So Solomon must have many scribes under him, and Solomon, since he is the king of wisdom, he really collecting many wisdom sources, and he also telling so many wisdom, and those scribes, those servants of Solomon, they were writing down, and they collecting all the wisdom heritage, and they try to preserve those, right? So the same works were going on, not only in Mesopotamia but also in Israel. And so now we will go to Egypt, page 33. Literature comparable to the biblical wisdom books was composed as early as the mid-3rd millennium, though there is no single term like wisdom literature to describe it. Egyptologists sometimes group 3 important genres under the rubric wisdom: so instruction, lamentory complaint, and political propaganda. So now we learned about Mesopotamian wisdom. Now we are in Egypt wisdom, but remember, the wisdom itself is very famous and nationwidely known, and we are learning about wisdom from the ancient society. Then it is Egyptian wisdom. Mesopotamian wisdom is not that famous. It's not that concentrated on wisdom itself, but Egyptian wisdom is very important in the heritage of ancient wisdom. So and also our Old Testament, those wisdom works are very much influenced by this Egyptian wisdom. So first one is instruction, second one lamentory complaints, and third one is political propaganda. Now, of the 3, instructions and complaints are relevant to the Bible. So instructions are related to Proverbs, book of Proverbs, and this complaint is related to book of Job. First, the instructions provide much information on their own history and social context. The instruction was a live genre during the entire history of ancient Egypt. So many instructions there. One of the important one is the instruction of Amenemop around 1100 BCE, and this instruction of Amenemop is generally acknowledged to have directly influenced Proverbs chapter 22:7 to chapter 24:22. So probably some of you heard of for the first time you are listening to this new learning. So Proverbs chapter 22 through 24, those proverbs are directly influenced by this old Egyptian instruction, the instruction of Amenemop. It was written around 1100 BCE. So Solomon period it's like 940, 950. It is written before 150 years before Solomonic period. So I think when Solomon wrote down some of Proverbs, these Egyptian instructions, he already knew about it, and then some verses are inserted into these biblical proverbs. That is scholars' inference. But when you compare here, we will see those examples, but we will see that some much similarities between those two. So still, you should not be confused. How come our Bible has this Egyptian, this pagan religious instructions there? Don't worry. It's just instrument. The main message is totally different. Why? Our Old Testament was baptized by Yahwism, the monotheism. So don't worry about it. Now, there are some examples of instructions, but you have to remember page 33, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8th line. Like other ancient people, from the bottom, like other ancient peoples, Egyptians believed that the gods implanted order, which they called Ma'at, in the world. Ma'at can be translated with different English words: truth, order, justice. So you have to remember this Ma'at, M-A-A-T, is the wisdom god in Egyptian culture. And from this Ma'at, all the order of the world are coming from. So this Ma'at is very important, and this one of gods. This Egyptian also polytheism, and this Ma'at is a female god, and this wisdom is related to worship service. So there is some difference. Mesopotamian, those wisdom is a hierarchical, but it's not that religious, but it is kind of political and kind of cultural phenomena. But here, Egyptian wisdom, it's a religious phenomena. So, and they are always related to some worship service. So there is a real difference between Mesopotamian wisdom and Egyptian wisdom. And second line from the bottom in page 33. In Egyptian mythology, Ma'at is the daughter of Re, the god of the sun and of justice. And this Ma'at, the female god, is portrayed crouching with a feather on her knees or her head. Ma'at was not revealed, but read off the course of the world and communicated through the maxims and exhortations of instructions. So to help readers fulfill the demands of Ma'at in every walk of life was the aim of the instructions. Some scholars see Ma'at as the model for personified wisdom in Proverbs. So it is important. So in the book of Proverbs, we will go to that there. But chapter 1 and chapter 8 and chapter 9 it talks about woman wisdom. And woman wisdom called people to come to her house, call to people, call to young people to listen to her and obeying her order and commandments. And this wisdom is personified wisdom. And all the scholars who are interpreting the book of Proverbs, they relate this personified wisdom in the book of Proverbs with this Egyptian Ma'at. Nowadays, still scholars regarding some relationship between this personified wisdom with this Ma'at, the female god in Egypt. So it is while the order of the world is coming from this Ma'at and is coming from personified wisdom, same, still it also says that the personal character in the book of Proverbs is more emphasized than the Ma'at, because Ma'at, the female god, is just a sovereign ordering god, and she is far away from human being. But in the book of Proverbs, personified wisdom is very close, is in the middle of our human society. And she is always expecting young people, expecting foolish people come to her, learning wisdom and live in truth. So totally different personified wisdom. So when you are doing comparative work between the Old Testament, between the Bible and ancient Near Eastern texts, then you should find out the original message and original characteristic in the Bible. And I have my PhD degree at Boston University, and when I studied, my advisor, Dr. Simon Parker, now he is in the heaven, but Dr. Simon Parker, he was expert in ancient languages. So he really, he was an expert Ugaritic language. Ugaritic. So now we will go to the Canaanite wisdom. That their literature was written in Ugaritic, cuneiform letter. It's very hard language, but he was an expert. And he read Ugaritic, and he read Akkadian, he read Sumerian. He is an expert, that ancient languages. So he is usually doing comparative works. And I learned from him these comparative studies. And very similarities, many similarities we have found between the Bible and this neighboring culture. However, at the same time, we really find the peculiarity, the originality of the Bible. So it is very interesting, and I'm enjoying that process in doing that comparative literary works. So now, every time you are learning Old Testament, every time you are writing your dissertation, then you have to always get through this ancient Near Eastern culture and literature in order to find out the real truth in the Bible. So, Egyptian wisdom is very closely related to biblical wisdom. So, for example, page 34, the paragraph in the bottom, in portraying human beings, the instructions use heart as the seat of feeling and especially of intelligence. Do you remind something from this? It reminds me of Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. It goes, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. So biblical wisdom, it emphasizes heart. But Egyptian wisdom emphasizes heart because heart is the seat of feeling and intelligence. So in that way, it is the same. However, biblical wisdom, its emphasis on heart, it is emphasized as the central place for fear of Yahweh. So it's different. And now I'm telling the essential message of the book of Proverbs. I do not have to do that because we will go to the Proverbs. But for now, I'm just telling you that book of Proverbs, the heart, in our heart, if you don't have any fear of Yahweh in your heart, of course, many people religiously, I'm worshiping God, I fear Yahweh, I believe in the Lord. Well, every time you can say that. But the real faith, the real fear of Yahweh should be in your heart, in your center. Then you will be real believer. You will be real children of God. But in my mouth, in my behavior, I go to church, I'm doing worship service. But that's not real children of God. That's not real Christian. But if you want to be a real Christian, from your heart, nobody knows except God. So you can deceive people, but you cannot deceive the Lord. So your heart always be in the Lord, praying to Him. You always watching Him. You always be afraid of Yahweh. You always fear God. You should be always conscious of His will, not your own will. That is the message of a heart in the book of Proverbs. Okay, now some example here. Page 35. Page 35 in the bottom, you should see instruction of Amen and Mob, which are very influencing upon our book of Proverbs. It goes like this. Give your ears, hear the sayings, give your heart to understand them. It profits to put them in your heart. Woe to him who neglects them. Let them rest in the casket of your belly. May they be buried in your heart. When there rises a whirlwind of words, there will be mooring posts for your tongue. If you make your life with these in your heart, you will find it a success. You will find my words a storehouse for life. Your being will prosper upon earth. So this passage bears some resemblance to wisdom lectures in Proverbs 1 through 9, which typically urge the youth to hear and memorize the teacher's words as the first step in acquiring wisdom. And also, again, the emphasis upon heart. So very similar, but still it's not the same. And also instruction of Ptah Hotep is also very important instruction, wisdom genre in Egypt and wisdom literature. And also again instruction of Amen and Mob. It really influenced Proverbs 23, 4 to 5. Do not set your heart on wealth, There is no ignoring faith and destiny. Do not let your heart go astray. Every man comes to his hour. Do not strain to seek increase. What you have, let it suffice you. If riches come to you by theft, they will not stay the night with you. Comes day, they are not in your house. Their place is seen, but they are not there. Earth opened its mouth, leveled them, swallowed them, and made them sink into thought. They made a hole as big as their size and sank into the nether world. They made themselves wings like geese and flew away to the sky. So it is about the vanities of human wealth. And you have to be honest enough to be straightforward, to be honest before God and human beings. And it is really true. Proverbs use these proverbs, but still Proverbs has different goal. You have to remember. And so, Egyptian location, the social location, house of life. It is kind of school, name of school, house of life, and it is near temple and had a role in worship. So Mesopotamian does not have that kind of religious role in wisdom class, but Egyptian wisdom class, they play a religious role as well. And here, the second paragraph in 37, in the wisdom social location, a general style of pessimistic and cynical attacks on traditional ways of thinking. So among the Egyptian literature, here's some pessimistic and cynical literature there, and it is very related to Book of Job and Ecclesiastes. So they are very interesting. So, well, this Egyptian pessimistic work we will get to there later. So today I'm done until this page 38, just before Canaan, and here the Egyptian wisdom location, social location is. It says that the last two sentences, they could arise from within the center of the scribal guild. So, like Mesopotamia, here Egyptian social location, scribal guild, but they are also religious. So they are questioning and they are satirical spirit of the biblical books of Job and Ecclesiastes has good analogues in Egypt. Okay, so very much influential impact upon Hebrew wisdom. This Egyptian wisdom has. Okay, now our assignment. Please write down about your evaluation or your knowledge or your feeling about this ancient Near Eastern culture when you are interpreting the Hebrew Bible. So the relationship, what do you think about the relationship between this Old Testament and ancient Near Eastern culture, and what is your new finding or what is your feeling about this relationship and in interpreting the Bible? That's your assignment. All right, that's for all today, this week. Next week, no class, and we will meet September 28th in the June. All right, thank you. Bye.